Hi, and welcome to Be Empowered Woman, the talk show. I'm your host, Nancy Rivera, and I'm so happy that you can join us today. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Karen Stanley, and she is a writer and also a coach. So she helps women, I'm not sure if men, but I know that she helps women to publish their books. So hi, Karen, how are you? Welcome.
I'm great, thank you, Nancy, and it's really lovely to be here. So you're in the daytime and I'm in the evening. It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yes, thank you to the technology that we can just connect. So Karen, what are you doing? How you help women? Who are you, and what you do?
Okay, I'll try and keep it fairly brief. So my background is I was a teacher for 20 years and I was assistant head teacher for quite a long time. And about 10 years into my teaching career, I started writing. And I'd always had a huge love of books, reading, all things literacy, and I taught literacy for many years. And I started writing and I realised that I absolutely loved it. Fast forward 10 years, I've written and published 10 books now. And I decided that I've been a bit busy. I decided that I wanted to really follow my dream. And now, in a nutshell, really, what I do is I coach new and budding writers to follow their writing dreams through from initial idea right through to publication. I help them to publish and I help them to get their books out there. And when I started writing, I found it so hard to get advice and find people to help me, and there was so much jargon and there was usually a really high price tag attached to everything. So I decided I wanted to be the person that I needed all those years ago. So that's really what I do in a nutshell.
I love it. And you know that I was also a teacher for 11 years. And my first book, it was with a publisher. It was a science book that I wrote, and it was back in 2006, 7, something like that. The point is that in that moment I already knew that I loved book, but that first book that I had the experience to write, that changed my life. So right now I have 2 more books that I wrote. And you know, teachers, we love book, we eat books. I mean, it's part of the it's part of our life. But what was your motivation behind everything?
Behind what I do now, I mean, I must admit I became a little bit disillusioned with teaching, mainly because, and I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but when I speak to people, I think it's sort of a bit of a thing. In the UK, I feel like teaching has become very scripted. I feel like we sort of move through a checklist of we've got to do this, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. And I just didn't feel that there was enough creativity. And I also felt that for those children that struggled, I'd usually worked in sort of areas of deprivation. So those children who maybe didn't quite fit the mold, you know, there was nothing in place to help them to really shine. And I found that really quite upsetting. So a lot of what I do now, I also do a lot of creative writing workshops in things like fostering agencies and for people who maybe have problems with literacy. And I mean, men as well, but it's predominantly women that I work with. And I just for me, creativity is everything. If you haven't got creativity, you haven't, you know, that's how things get done in the world with creative thinkers, you know. So I think it was really my inspiration was I want to spread that creativity message. I feel like it's absolutely vital for your mental health, for your self-fulfillment, you know. So really it was a chance to follow my passion, really. And it took a bit of bravery and a bit of a gentle nudge, but I'm very glad that I did it. It was a bit scary, but you know, what doesn't scare you maybe isn't perhaps worth doing, maybe.
Okay, so you help women and men too to write their books?
Yeah, I do. I've got 5 ladies actually who are coming to publication this month. I'm currently editing the last one in the 5, and none of those ladies had ever written before, and they come from a very diverse range of backgrounds. There's 2 have written fictional novels, 2 have written children's books, 1 has written a business book, and it's been really lovely to see how much they've blossomed and how much they've grown in confidence. One of them, won't mind me telling you, had quite a few struggles with her own mental health over the years, and this process has been hugely cathartic. We sort of tease her a little bit that she's really rubbish at taking compliments, but she's going to have to get used to it because what she's written is amazing. So it's just been really nice to watch them bloom and grow. And that's, you know what it's like. You get your book with your name on it come through, and I've done 10 now, and it never gets old. It's just such a wonderful feeling.
In that moment that you receive that box and you know that there's books in there that
Yeah,
you wrote and it has
yeah,
your name and
yeah,
it's your idea, you're like, oh my God.
yeah. It's
It's like
amazing.
amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so a person who have never written a book and they have been like thinking about it,
Yeah.
where they have to start, where they should start?
Well, there's I'm not a one for a scripted approach, and I'm kind of was a bit like that in my teaching. I always got into trouble because I was always going off piste and doing things that perhaps were a bit controversial. But I think you can't really have a very scripted approach because everybody is different. And I think if you try to write to a narrow format, that can sometimes narrow the creative process, etc. But obviously there are guidelines, aren't there? First of all, I mean, if you've got any kind of an idea, that's a great start. You know, if you've got, you know what the subject of your book is, or you know that you've got a story, or you know that you want to write a business book, or you want to write your life story, for example, that is a great starting point. And I also think it's a good idea to know what you want from the book. So is it because you want to promote your business? Is it because you want to tell your life story? Is it because you want to share your story? You know, it's a good idea to know where you're at and what you want from that book. And then really, when I coach my writers, we start with a very simple process of, okay, so what is the shape of this book going to look like? And there's quite a funny thing in the UK. We say that there are two kinds of writers. There are planners and there are pantsers. And the planners will plan everything in meticulous detail, and the pantsers will fly by the seat of their pants.
I'm
And
in
let
that group. I'm
yeah,
in
I'm
that
a
group.
pantser. I'm definitely a pantser. But even I have to rein myself in sometimes and say, look, Karen, you've gone off at a tangent. You need to sort of refocus. So really, we start to talk about, okay, every story, you think about, you know, even children's stories, Little Red Riding Hood or Goldilocks and the Three Bears, they've all got a beginning, a build up to a climax, a bit of an adventure, and then a resolution. And really, that's the basis of every good story, you know, that kind of journey that your story is going to take. And I think if you've got really at least a few points on which to hang your story, then that's a good starting point, I would say.
Okay, that's perfect. And I'm one of those people that if I find a napkin and I just have an idea,
Yeah,
I have like start to write and people are like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm writing an idea for the book. So I'm like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
got all
yeah,
my little notes in different
yeah,
parts. And then
yeah,
I come to the computer because I
exactly.
cannot write in the computer. My ideas, I just need to write them down. I
Yeah,
cannot like, type them into the computer. So
no,
that's the last thing that I do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so other questions that some people have, for example, my two first book, they were with a publisher because I mean I had a contract with them. But
Mm,
my second book, my third and fourth book, I did my publishing. I
yeah,
used Amazon as my
yeah.
publisher. But it raised the question of what should I do when I write my
Mm,
book? Should I go to
mm,
a publisher or should
mhm,
I do this by myself?
mhm.
What would be your advice?
Well, my journey was fraught with difficulties, and a lot of those difficulties were very expensive,
Mhm.
emotionally and financially. There are, you know, in a nutshell, there's a lot of kind of vanity publishers out there who will sort of prey on your naivety and the fact that you know you're desperate to get your book out there, and they will charge you an awful lot of money and not really give much in return. For my So I got kind of sucked into that. My first book. My second book I self-published with an assisted self-publisher who sort of helped me do the technical formatting bit. I then got a traditional publishing deal for my second two books. And whilst that was okay, I was like, first of all, the submission process can be really demoralizing.
Yeah.
You've got to, you know, you've got to find the right publisher, and sometimes you've got to find an agent, which is harder than finding a publisher. And you've got to submit a million different, you know, it's got to be double spaced, and you might need 3 chapters. It's just, and I found it really not a nice process.
Mhm.
And actually, once I was published by a traditional publisher, I kind of thought, woohoo, this is it. I've made it. You know, I'm on my way, expecting to get all this help with marketing, etc., which you don't, because unless you're famous, the marketing is down to you, because it's costly, it's time consuming, and no publisher really is going to invest that in somebody who's pretty much unknown. And then I had a bumpy journey for, you know, and I was, and of course, then you've got to pay royalties. So you're doing all of this work and somebody else reaps the rewards,
Yep.
which made me a bit miffed, I have to say. And then I met this lady who I was at the point of giving up, actually, because I was just so demoralized by the whole process. And she was a hybrid publisher. And what she did was she helped people to self-publish it, but under her publishing house logo. So you got the kudos of a publisher with lots of support, but you still retained the rights and royalties and everything to do with your book. She answered so many questions. She was like a gift from God. I was so pleased to meet her. She gave me more information in 5 minutes than I'd had in 5 years. Anyway, fast forward a little bit, and she now doesn't do that. She was a writer in her own kind of right as well. And I thought, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people to have the kudos of a publishing house, to not give them a million hoops to jump through to publish, but also give them the technical advice and support to get their books out there, and, you know, and reassure them that it can be done and it doesn't have to cost you. I mean, that we're talking thousands of dollars. A lady I'm publishing at the moment, she was told that her contribution would be $3,500, which was only 25%. And I said, they're suggesting that it costs £12,000 to, that's just simply not true. And I didn't want to be that person. I wanted more integrity than that. So really, that's what I help people to do. The books are uploaded onto the Amazon platform, but I also buy unique ISBN numbers so that they can go on other platforms too. So really, you've got the best of all worlds, really. Whilst the book still is yours, you know.
Yes.
So that was
I had the experience. The first book that I wrote, I mean, I know that I love books and everything, but it was a bad deal, because they only paid me, it was all my brain, and they only paid me, I think it was like $5,000, $5,000, and everything else was for the company. So they did millions of dollars thanks to that book, because they sell that books to schools, so to this private school. So there were a lot of schools in Puerto Rico and also in other places that they teach it in Spanish. They were using the book, but I only had $5,000.
Yeah.
But still, I did a second deal. It was worse.
Yeah.
I was just excited that, oh, my name is going to be in that book.
And you feel like you've made it, don't you? Think, oh, this is
Yes.
it. But there's so many unscrupulous people out there, unfortunately.
Yes, it is very sad. And that second book, I was for half the price, $2,500. I mean, that was like, are you crazy, Nancy? Yes, I did that.
Yeah.
So just when I started to write my third book, that was my idea book, my everything. And it came because of a radio program that I had. When I started to write, I started to look into publisher. Okay, where I'm going to publish this. And I came across Amazon, and oh my God, it was so easy to do it. I mean, you follow the instructions and that's it. And like I said, when I saw that first book coming into my hands, I was crying. I was so excited, because I knew that was mine, that no one could take it out of me, and that whatever I felt, I was going to be the responsible. So thank God that book did boom, because I did have a radio program, and the second one, I'm already writing another one. And yes, it's just that we have to decide what we want in that moment. I mean, the experience of being published by a publisher, yes, it's great, but we have to be very careful. Very careful.
Yeah.
So if a person here in the state or in another country, they want to look for help, can they receive that? They don't have to be in UK?
No, it's because pretty much, I mean, everything I do is more or less online. I mean, and that's the beauty of it. I've got people in my writing group from Colorado, I've got them from Ireland, I've got them in the UK, and that's really wonderful to have that quite eclectic mix of people. It's lovely.
Okay, so inside your service, you give you help people write their book,
Yeah.
narrow that idea, and also publish it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yeah. And I give help with sort of ideas or inspiration if they get a little bit lost along the way, or, you know, anything to do with writing and composition really
Okay.
is what I do.
Perfect. So, what advice can you give the audience that are thinking about writing a book, or they already have their book written and they just need like that motivation to just publish it?
Do it. That's my advice. Do it. Don't wait a moment longer. I mean, yeah, there's lots of help out there.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'd love to be part of your writing journey if you're out there, but there's other people like me that will help you. So if you're just starting out and you haven't quite got the confidence or you don't really know where to go next, I mean, my writers have said that the power of the group that they've been in, they're just, I'm like a little proud mother hen, you know, releasing all these wonderful women into the world, but they've really empowered each other, they've really built each other up, they've given each other confidence. They've, you know, only today one of them was like, you know, what do you think about my front cover? And everybody straight away saying, oh, I really like that font, but why don't you try? And that kind of community is wonderful, and it's empowering, it's inspiring, it's motivating. So finding your tribe, I think, is a really great way, you know. And also we held each other accountable. When I'm saying to them, right, girls, if you want this published by the end of the year, I need that manuscript by the end of July. And they all went, oh, you know? So I started to sort of crack the whip a little bit, but it was really good for accountability and for that sort of camaraderie. And I would say, if you've finished your book, the same, you know, find some, if you're not sure how to do it, find someone to help you. Avoid vanity publishers like the plague. If someone offers you, you know, a publishing, they sort of dress it, they're very clever, they dress it, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a publishing deal, it's just a contributory offer, but you've got to, if you're being asked to pay thousands of pounds for a publishing deal, don't touch it. And the lady I'm working with at the moment, that she was sort of almost kind of sucked in, so I'm really pleased that I was able to rescue her from that. They hadn't even read her book. How can you know, how is that person going to have any faith in your work or have any kind of loyalty towards it? They literally are chucking mud at the wall and hoping some of it sticks, and you are the way that they do that. So that's why they're trying to get as much money in. So I certainly wouldn't go down that road. And I would also say that if you've written your book, editing is key. I'm currently editing one of my ladies' books, and it's really important, because one of my bits of advice is, when you're writing, you know, let go of perfection, let the writing flow, let the creative process happen. But obviously then when you look back at it, there's going to be quite a lot of mistakes, aren't there? Because you can't do both. So it's really important to get your work read, whether you have a few beta readers to start with, or, you know, whichever way you do it. But it needs to be, you don't want it to go out there with lots of mistakes in it, because then it just devalues your work. You want it to represent you in the best light. So that's really important, I think.
Super. And what about when you're going to publish your book, that weeks before you know that it's going to be published? Marketing strategy that you can give to the audience, because I've seen, for example, in social media, I follow a woman called Carrie Green,
Right.
and she, before she launches her book, she started to do a group in Facebook, and she started to work on it, and then
Yeah.
she announced this and that and everything, and boom, everyone was like,
Yeah.
I want the book, I want the book. I was one
Yeah.
of the ones
Yeah.
that hit the
Yeah.
sale. So
Yeah.
what other advice can you give the audience?
I mean, the marketing is hard work. I actually think
Mhm.
the marketing is harder than writing the book. Give me a book writing any day. And what I'm doing, if I give you a bit of an example, again, I think, like you say, it's really important to have a bit of a campaign that you plan. So
Mhm.
for my 5 writers, the beauty of that is they're all coming to market at the same time. So that's creating a bit of a buzz. And what we did was we planned an author event, and bookshops are really keen. You know, people say, well, how do you get your book in a bookshop? You just walk in and ask. They want books. They want to support their communities. They want people to support them. So we found quite a lovely artisan bookshop here in the UK. we planned an author event in that bookshop on a Saturday, and all the authors are going to be there, and we're doing little mindfulness sessions, and we're doing children's activities and reading from the book. So we're making a real buzz about it. Nice cakes, obviously, that's always really important. And then backtracking, that's on the 27th of November, backtracking like about 8 weeks from that event, I basically did a week on each author, daily social media posts, a weekly interview with that author about their inspiration and how they got started. I stream that interview out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. So each author has their sort of the post and a little bit about the backstory of the author, how they got started, you know, what's their motivation, and then leading up to that author event. So already people are going, oh, I can't wait to order one of your books, you know. And then the week after that, we've got a big party at a co-working space near us, and we've got, you know, like people like, we're going to invite the mayor and the press, and I'm sending out press releases, because the press, you know, they're always looking for sort of good news stories. So, you know, it's about getting yourself out there. It's about not being too shy, and you need to be committed, because it is quite hard work. And it needs a bit of consistency. You need to, you know, have a bit of a marketing strategy and be seen, you know, really, which social media is great for these days,
Yes.
isn't it? I mean,
It
that's
is.
really helpful.
So people take note.
Yeah, there's a lot to it though.
Karen, where can they find you? How can people get in contact with you?
I'm pretty easy to find on all the social media platforms at Karen Stanley Author. You can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, or on my website, karenstanley-author.co.uk.
Okay, perfect. So I'll be adding her information in this in the description, so that you can hit her link and follow her or check out her website and everything. Karen, thank you so much for being with us today. I enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that you keep on growing.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, thank you. And all of you, I hope that you can join us next Thursday at 11 p.m. here in Being Power Woman, the talk show.